I had the incredible opportunity last year to work with POGO on hostage policy reform. I was a staff officer in the Pentagon seeking ways of getting Sergeant Bergdahl out of captivity. 3 years had passed since he was captured, and we discovered that not only was Sergeant Bergdahl held by militants, but so were a number of civilians, including Warren Weinstein, Colin Rutherford, Josh Boyle, Caitlin Coleman, and the child that she bore in captivity. Bureaucratic inertia prevented us from rescuing them. No single government agency owned the problem, and no agency would admit their inability to free the hostages. And this was far beyond anything we could fix from the Army staff and the Pentagon. It was a national problem. It was literally going to take an act of Congress to fix this mess, so that's where I went. I began speaking to Representative Duncan Hunter at the House Armed Services Committee, the HASC, about reforming hostage policy. None of this was secret or even remotely sensitive, and the Army actually wasn't even a part of the issues I was raising. But the FBI was angry over Hunter's ongoing criticism, and they wanted me silenced. So the FBI notified one of the Army staff's top generals, Lieutenant General Mary Legier, that I was speaking to Hunter. I actually updated my boss in the Pentagon routinely that I was speaking to Representative Hunter. I even warned him that the FBI was likely going to complain at some point. He told me, "Don't worry, my chain of command supported me." You know, famous last words. But Lieutenant General Legier was angry at Hunter for his public criticism of her procurement initiatives. So when the FBI alerted her that I was speaking to him, she immediately ordered a criminal investigation. She sought to have me court-martialed and thrown out of the Army. I faced a decade in prison and becoming a convicted felon, all over her personal grudge with a congressman. My boss, who told me that he had my back a week earlier, suspended my security clearance and escorted me out of the Pentagon. I anticipated some form of retaliation for speaking to Congress, but I made one fatal flaw. I assumed that Congress would actually defend me. Hunter was outraged, but ironically, he too was abandoned by his leadership on the House Armed Services Committee. The Republicans on the HASC didn't want to anger the defense establishment by helping me. And the Democrats didn't want to side with an officer who they perceived to be critical of the White House. So Hunter and I were on our own at this point. That was when my fiancée, Lisa, introduced me to Danielle Bryan. Lisa worked open government issues for the White House and had been on the receiving end of POGO's, we'll just call it aggressive work as watchdogs. And actually, in fairness, I think a lot of people here at different points along the way beat up on my fiancée. We'll talk later, but Lisa told me that she could think of no better organization that could help me, and she was right. Danielle and Mandy knew the right people to reach out to in Congress. Soon, Representative Jackie Speer was writing bipartisan letters with Duncan Hunter, demanding the Secretary of Defense put an end to the witch hunt. This was a very rare moment of congressional bipartisanship, thanks to POGO. Deb Katz and Matt Stiff joined the fight from Katz, Marshall, and Banks. And they went after the inept Inspector General's office that refused to put a stop to the illegal investigation. Later, Senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson took up the cause. The defining moment for me was testifying before the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. I finally had the right platform to publicly address the dysfunction in hostage policy, again, all thanks to POGO. 9 months after it began, the Army spontaneously dropped the investigation. Then the Army surprised us further by telling me that I was being given a medal for my service on the Army staff. My favorite moment was having Danielle and Mandy, Deb, Matt, along with staff from Duncan Hunter, Jackie Spear, Chuck Grassley, and Ron Johnson's offices at the Pentagon Awards ceremony. Whistleblowers rarely have victories and have medals pinned on them, surrounded by those who fought for them. I mean, it was a pretty amazing afternoon. I don't think I fully understood, just kind of how screwed I was until after the awards ceremony. Basically, Deb Katz was bouncing off the walls. She couldn't believe we won. She couldn't believe here we are, we won. And that's when it kind of occurred to me, wow, I almost went to jail. Because of POGO, we never lost in the court of public opinion. We never deserved to lose in the court of public opinion, but that doesn't always make any difference. I mean, we still never lost in that ever important place. We drove home the messages of government dysfunction and the plight of the abandoned hostages. Just 6 months after I started working with POGO, a new hostage policy was released by the White House addressing every one of our concerns. And a hostage envoy position was created at the State Department, and a standing organization was established for hostage recovery. Government reform rarely moves that fast. Arguably, it never moves that fast. But when it does, it takes a small revolution, and POGO was the catalyst for that revolution. So congratulations, POGO, on 35 years, and thank you. Yeah, let's shake up Washington again one of these days, but ideally after the wedding, or Lisa will be really mad.